So this guy will do anything to get a Rolex for his girlfriend, even get violent. So people call this guy Liar Joe because he's known locally as just kind of a bullshitter. And Liar Joe's around 23 years old when this story starts, living in Singapore, and bro has a big problem. He really likes hookers. Like, he visits the local brothel all the time, and he pays quite a bit of money to smash. In fact, he goes to the brothel so much, he'll often spend his whole paycheck there. Sometimes he goes up to 4 times a week. And after a while of visiting the place on the regular, Liar Joe ends up having a favorite woman. This woman, Saifan. And Liar Joe thinks Saifan is fine. And eventually, he ends up falling in love with her. And allegedly, she becomes his girlfriend. And I don't actually know if she's really his girlfriend because, Liar Joe's kind of a liar, but we'll get into that part in a minute. But one day in 1998, he runs into an even bigger problem. Saifan's birthday is coming up, and he wants nothing more in the world than to impress her. And he knows exactly what to get her that will show her how much he cares and that will make her fall in love with him. A Rolex watch. I guess one night after they'd smashed, they were talking, and Saifan told him about how she used to have a Rolex, but later she had to pawn it because she was running out of money. And she also tells him how much she loves and misses that watch so much. And so Liar Joe is thinking, that's it. I'll get her a Rolex for her birthday. Here's the issue with all that, though. Liar Joe is broke. Like, he works as a prop assistant on film sets. He doesn't make a lot of money. In fact, he makes so little money that he has to live with his parents. And what little money he does make, he spends it going to the brothel to smash with his girlfriend, Saifan, which, by the way, she's supposedly his girlfriend, but she still charges him to hook up. Which makes me think she's not really his girlfriend, he just thinks she is. But regardless of any of that, he can't let this thought go. He really wants to impress Saifan, and he knows that this would do it. And as her birthday approaches, day after day, he can't get this watch idea out of his head. He even starts having dreams about the watch. But one day, he finally comes up with a plan of how to get one. He'll just steal one. He'll find a random woman out on the street wearing one, and he'll overpower her and just take it. Piece of cake. And so that's what he does. He starts going around town looking for any woman who happens to be wearing the watch he wants. Then when he finally spots one, he starts following her around, waiting for her to be alone so that he can run up to her and snatch it. And so he trails this one woman for a while, until finally the time is right to go and rob her. And Liar Joe chickens out. He just can't bring himself to do it. So that plan fails. But he's not ready to give up yet. He's still determined to impress his hooker girlfriend one way or another. Now, as I said before, Liar Joe works as a prop assistant on production sets, like when they do photo shoots or when they shoot commercials or whatever. And at some point, he's working on a set on a local commercial, and he meets this woman. Her name is Madame Po. Madame Po is a very sweet woman who also works in production. She's a makeup artist. And funny enough, right when he meets her, he notices that she just happens to be wearing an incredible-looking diamond-studded Rolex. And of course, he's like, that is amazing. It would be the perfect gift for Saifan. And he knows he has to have it. And he also knows that the only way to get it is to murder her and steal it from her. And by the way, here's a crazy side note about Liar Joe. The dude is technically a prince. And no, this isn't just like another bull story he made up to impress his friends. No. This guy is legitimately royalty. His uncle is the Sultan of Kedah in the Malay Peninsula, but he and his parents aren't rich because, he's just a nephew. He's not a direct heir to the throne. Anyway, so here is where the story gets dark. One day, Joe calls up Madame Po and he pretends to be someone else. He tells her his name is Nigel, and as Nigel, he tells her that he wants to hire her. He says he needs her makeup services for a photo shoot he's putting together for early tomorrow morning, so he needs her to be available on real short notice. and he offers to pay her way more than she would normally make. So, of course, she says yes. Then tomorrow comes, the day of the fake photo shoot, and Madame Poe gets in her car and she drives over to a local bus stop where she had been instructed to go. I guess that's where she's supposed to meet Nigel and the rest of the film crew that she's going to do this photo shoot with. Meanwhile, Liar Joe smokes a little, and once he's sufficiently high, he heads over to the bus stop too. And when he gets there, he goes up to Madame Poe, acting like he was hired by Nigel to work on this photo shoot as well, lying to her like the rest of the crew should be here soon. So Liar Joe and Madame Poe wait there near the bus stop for this fake crew to arrive. And as they're waiting there, Joe is standing behind her, so she can't see what he's doing. And that is when he decides to make his move. He pulls out a hammer that he had brought, and suddenly, pow, he hits her with it, and she's immediately knocked unconscious. Then Joe grabs her, and he drags her body into some nearby bushes to hide it. Once they're there behind the bushes, Madame Poe wakes up, and she gets up and she tries to escape. But Liar Joe, he isn't going to let that happen. So pow, he hits her with the hammer, then he hits her again and again until she's no longer moving. Then he finishes her off with a knife. After that, he takes her Rolex watch off of her and he flees the area. A bit later, he arrives home and he takes a nap for some reason. I guess he was just tired and wanted to take a nap. Then he gets together all the gifts that he got siphoned for her birthday. A cake, some roses, some whiskey, of course, Madame Poe's Rolex. And he's thinking this is going to be perfect and she's going to love this birthday so much and she's going to love him. So he grabs all the gifts and he goes over to the brothel to meet up with her. Once he's there, he gives her everything, including the watch, and I'm assuming she loves it. I mean, I don't know if she loves it enough to let him smash for free, but she probably thinks it's nice. Meanwhile, I guess some bystanders discover Madame Poe's body in the bushes because someone called police. So police start investigating, and during their investigation, they end up talking to Madame Poe's husband. And Madame Poe's husband remembers that before she left the house that morning, he asked her where she was going, and she said that she had taken a job with a guy named Nigel and that she was going to meet up with Nigel at the bus stop or whatever. But in a weird twist, Madame Poe, while she was on the phone with Joe, she actually misheard him. She thought he said, not Nigel, but Lijo. And so Madame Poe's husband asked her where she was going, and she told him, I'm going to meet someone named Lijo. And so this is what husband tells police. She said she was going to meet with someone named Lijo. And police are like, Lijo? That sounds an awful lot like Liar Joe. Maybe we should look into him. And so they look into Liar Joe, and they realize that he is the one who committed the murder. And so, bam, they go and they arrest him. Here's his mugshot. And ultimately, Joe goes to trial. He's found guilty, and he's sentenced to death by hanging. And they actually did it. They actually hanged the guy.